Hello again, friends, and welcome inside, at least for me, Ben Garrett, the Riverland Roofing Studios. Riverland Roofing for all your roofing needs. 662-644-4297, riverlandroofing.com. My thanks to them, DNA Bank, Drew Moak of USA Benefits Group, Tannehill Carmen, Real Estate and Title. I mean, there's just Estate and Title, excuse me. There's so many that have sponsored us and have really just thrown their support behind us, not just through the last few weeks, but for months and this year and last year. I mean, great people, so support them. Today with me is Matt McLaughlin. Man, Matt, you, as much as anyone in that Ole Miss administration, have had one hellacious handful of days. You know, Billy Glasscock follows Lane Kiffin, Ole Miss's general manager, to LSU. That means that you had to maybe pick up some duties you weren't expecting. First of all, how you doing? How you feeling? You got any sleep yet? Now that signing day's done?
It's been a few weeks of no sleep, so it just didn't pop up overnight. We've been pretty locked in for the last 6 weeks or so with stuff going on. So obviously happy to jump in and help out, keep the things rolling. But yeah, man, this is Walker and I were actually talking about this yesterday. This was the perfect pressure test to our infrastructure. It's been pretty seamless, so it made us feel really good and even more confident about what we built here. Is just, even when you have a departure like that, things just keep moving right along. We stay on track, stay on schedule, and there wasn't some big, crazy thing that popped up where we're really put behind a deadline or behind the 8 ball. So it's been really good. It's been stressful. It's been fun, but man, I'll tell you, the energy in the building right now makes it a fun place to come. I'm not in my normal office. I'm over at Manning. Walker and I kind of moved into Manning for interim period, you call it. So it's been really good though.
Yeah, what's been the vibe over there, that since you've had to move into an office that wasn't yours, like and fold into it, what's the vibe, the mood? Like you said, it's been pretty seamless. Obviously, you're going to lose some commitments, but Ole Miss still, the vast majority of the class remained in place, and Ole Miss is still working on some other prospects as well. It's not necessarily done either. Then the portal strategy stuff comes in January. Before we get to that stuff, though, what's just the vibe now that the thing that has dominated everything, when the focus was supposed to be on 11-1 and signing day and all this kind of stuff, it was about anything but for the last 2 weeks. Has the vibe shifted in a noticeable way now that you're over there every single day?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I would say, the vibe is, well, going back to when everything kind of went down, it was obviously weird. You're trying to figure out who's staying, who's going. So I think that was first and foremost, we needed to kind of lock down the building, so to speak, and make sure that we could have some freedom of movement and conversation with people kind of still getting pulled away. We were prepared for that, but I think the aggressive nature in which we were dealing with it was a little bit unexpected. You thought maybe we'd have a little more leeway there, but we were ready for it. So I think locking down the building was kind of a interesting 24, 36 hours. And then after that, it's like, hey, this is the crew. This is who's rolling with the Rebs, and we're locked in. And the energy, I think, from that moment where it's kind of like, hey, we're here. This is who's going to take us into the playoffs. And after that, man, the vibe has been super high. It's been really fun, actually. And Pete's energy is electric, as you know, and his leadership, stepping into that chair and that role, has been seamless. He was kind of the main engine in this building too, right? Like, from an energy standpoint, keeping the guys in line, the players loved him. So, from a player management through the transition standpoint, that staff has been outstanding. And then, we had to jump into personnel, because that's where we had a lot of staff leave. And so that was the immediacy of at least our line of thinking. And we wanted to make sure that we were on top of that, stayed on top of the schedule we had already, laid out. And so far, so good. But yeah, vibes are high, man. Vibes are high.
Speaking of that personnel and the work y'all had to do, what was the last 36 hours leading up to National Signing Day like? I mean, it's out there. I've reported on the Ole Miss Spirit, OleMissSpirit.com, for the on 3, sign up today for $1. I'm not asking you to confirm it or anything, but man, Lane and the guys that went to LSU, their goal was to take as many as they could as possible. They got a few, but for y'all, what were those 36 hours like to preserve the bulk of the class, knowing that it's not over? What was the chaotic nature like in those wars, in those hours where you don't know who's going, who's staying, but you got to keep putting the work in, right?
Yeah, so obviously we knew where we stood going into all that. We had a great dialogue with the past personnel. So it's not like we walked in and documents were burned and destroyed or anything. Like we had a really good working, relationship with Billy. And so we felt like we were in a good spot and we were prepared for this contingency.
Yeah.
We had this plan rolled out. We knew what we were going to do. So we had everything prepared. So, but the biggest thing I think, and Walker has been awesome this whole time, obviously, but he's been great in this spot as well. But just, hey, we got to get the staff together. Just because evaluations were won prior doesn't mean the evaluations with the current staff are what we need to make sure that that was still on point. So from a national signing day perspective, the staff just kind of jumped in, and the 85 roster limit cap for the spring plays a big role in this. I don't think that's something that people really talk about very much. So you got to make sure you're signing the right guys and impact guys, just to give yourself as much flexibility as humanly possible. Obviously, you want to have a great signing class every year, but in this unique circumstance, I think it was important to make sure we got the right people to sign early, and then after that, we'll kind of sort it out. But again, man, the staff was outstanding. The main recruiters are still here and active, and had all the relationships. So obviously, you're going to lose some in transition. You see that no matter what. But again, I think everyone's really pleased with the guys we got, and giving ourselves the flexibility to attack the portal like we have the last few years.
I didn't mention it, but Matt is Ole Miss's senior associate AD for strategy and cap management. What's kind of like the health then, Mr. AD, for strategy and cap management of the books, of the approach, of the cap? Ole Miss has been better than most everyone else, at least for the last 3 years of doing what it does well, right? Even with Lane now somewhere else. First of all, man, Pete was the one while Lane's talking to 4 different schools, including Florida State, which came out, recently. Pete's in there, spearheading portal strategy and recruiting strategy to keep the business of Ole Miss moving forward in the actual building. In your opinion, through all of that and where things are now looking ahead to the transfer piece, what is the health of just the books and the cap and all those kind of things, right?
Yeah, so keep in mind the cap isn't stagnant; it's living and breathing. So
Right.
you can kind of you can squeeze, you can stretch, you can pull, you can kind of do a lot with it. So I think the ones that will be really good in this space do it from that vantage point. It's not a fixed budget. I tell coaches that all the time. So it's, hey, this may be where we're at today, but a couple of series of events, it'll look like this. So we kind of go through that. Walker and I spent a lot of time on that. Just talking through our cap position. So we're in a great spot, and we'll continue to aggressively attack, being creative in the space of not just how we manage the cap, but in the NIL space. I think we've been really good. We've seen a lot of success in the new system. While a lot of people were hesitant and wanting to, rage against the machine, so to speak, of the new NIL Go system, we just approached it as, hey, this is where we're at. Let's try to work it as efficiently as possible. And I think after a month or so, we got our footing down on it and what they're looking for. And again, I said this in previous interviews, like the CSC wants the athletes to have these opportunities. They're just looking for specific things per the settlement rules. So we want to make sure we're compliant in all those things, but that doesn't mean we can't be the best and most efficient at working the system to benefit our student athletes. So we've been really good in that space, and we'll continue to be. And like I said, it's living and breathing. So one moment you're like, I wish had a couple more shillings, but then the next minute you're like, we're all right. We can kind of move some stuff around and get this figured out. So it's been really good. It's unique, right? And I've taken a lot of what the NFL does, from how they manage cap, but this is unique, right? You have other opportunities to do things in the college space that not necessarily in the NFL. So adapt a lot of those principles and talk to a lot of those guys in the league. And obviously those guys are really good at it, and we approach it very similarly. So for us, we make decisions with what we have in front of us right now, but it's a lot of short-term planning, but then long-term planning, and trying to find sustainability in the long term is really high importance to me.
Right now, as there's this time of transition with Ole Miss's general manager Billy Glasscock in LSU, going to bring in a general manager, obviously talking to candidates, but right now it's you and Walker kind of handling that piece of it from the top down. What is the most pressing thing right now on your agenda list, right? Like what are y'all most focused on today? Because the transfer portal in January, that's January, and quite literally there's plenty on the docket today. What is the most pressing stuff, would you say?
I think initially it was, hey, what are we doing with the signing class? and then just making sure philosophically, Pete's going to have different, he's going to have different opinions than our previous coaches and evaluators. And so it's just, but we're making sure like, hey, before we decide on anything, like, hey, can we just have a 30,000-foot view? And so kind of making sure that everybody understood the system that we had, how we weighted position groups, and Pete's gonna have different opinions on that too. So we want to make sure before we went into the signing day and handcuffed ourselves that we were on the same page there. And it was pretty easy. Again, it's not the first time these guys have seen it. Joe Judge has also been fantastic in this space too. A lot of credit to him in the transition too, and because Pete's been having to fight for a lot of battles on a lot of fronts. So it's been good from an evaluation standpoint to work with him, and the rest of the staff's been awesome. But anyway, just to make sure philosophically that we knew where they were in the short term. And then obviously retention is the biggest thing. That's really the top biggest thing on my mind is just retention. We got to get in front of these guys and make sure that we are being proactive. And we've had initial conversations, but wanted to make sure with all the distractions that we didn't add another layer to it too early. You don't want to be too early in those conversations, but certainly don't want to be too late. So we're right in that happy medium. Like I said, when I say we're on time, we may have been 8 hours, hey, we should have met with those guys at 12 today. And now it's, we'll meet with them in the morning, but we've been really on schedule this whole time, which has been really good. So retention will be the biggest thing here in the future because that sets the table for the portal and what your needs are. And obviously we got to make sure that we got our guys here locked in and ready to go and balance that with the fact that they're still playing football. So fortunately we got a couple weeks here before the games, and contractually we're in a good spot, I think, with everybody, and we've had a great dialogue.
Well, it's interesting too with the roster retention piece. It's such a fluid and day-to-day thing, man. Because this isn't the NFL. I actually brought it up to Lane. I was like, would it be better if college football in coaching searches developed or put something together that was similar to the NFL, to where you have to request permission, right? You have to like they get draft pick compensation. There's no draft in college football, but maybe NIL compensation, something like that. Didn't answer it, but like most other businesses, and it's easiest to point to the NFL, they have these guardrails in place. They have the workforce, the labor force collectively bargains, right? And yet y'all are having to just say, hey, I'll meet you at 8 o'clock in the morning and we'll see. But how does that work? What are the conversations like? What are the questions you're usually getting from players? What is, I think that is such a foreign thing to people. So from your seat in the front row, roster retention, what does that actually look like from a macro point of view, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing too, and I think the question that we'll have to answer is just scheme. What does the new schematic, breakdown offensively and defensively look like? Obviously, defensively, you're not going to move much. Offensively, the plans is to keep the same scheme in place, but we got to get personnel in there too that can then talk to guys at some point. But, after that, it's just, hey, usually it's just general conversations with guys. And again, Walker's really, really good at this, and it does an outstanding job there. But just having an open dialogue with them. Hey, what are you thinking? Because these guys are everybody's getting hit up at this point, right? That we're not naive to what goes on, but we want to make sure that we're taking care of the home front. And there's Walker right now walking in my office. So we're just talking about you. He's asking a question about the
friend.
Oh, there he is.
You got a 2-1 on the
interview. Hey, Walker, I don't know if you saw it.
Ben Garrett.
Yeah. Yes. I don't know if you saw it. Barstool Sports makes a shirt. I'm not going to say what it says because I'm being respectful. But I told him I'm not getting a dime from whatever's coming out of this. Just give it to Walker. So if you see an influx of merch sales, just know, throw your boy Ben like a hat or something. That's all I want to look for.
Well,
all right?
you need a new agent. That's poor business acumen on your part if you're not getting a penny of that. So Ben,
you would be great for retention.
That's right. See, you'd be a low cap hit, Ben.
Yes, hey, if y'all are the adults in the room, if you want to help your stupid Ginger Shrek friend out one day, you let me know, okay? Y'all are the businessmen, not me.
Love
You're
you,
the
buddy.
Thank
I'll
you,
let
man.
You get back to with Matt. Howdy toddy.
All right, man. That was fun. A little drop in from Walker Jones, the head of the Grove Collective here on Talk of Champions. I'm Ben Garrett at Spirit Ben on Twitter. That's Matt McLaughlin, man, and Matt has been doing.
I don't even know where we're on that, but I think open dialogue, man, as you can see right there, we got, I think for the most part, they want to know what the compensation package is, just like any job. And, but it's unique to the NFL or pro sports. Like it isn't yet, but we try to operate in a manner from the business side that would protect the interests of Ole Miss and our student athletes. But again, it's just open dialogue, figuring out, hey, are you happy? What is there anything that we need to work on? Is family home good? Family situation good? All that stuff that you would already talk to a student athlete about, and then it's just, hey, we want you back. But we do have an evaluation process, and so there's sometimes that there's a disagreement. And I think that's from the way that we built this system out and the infrastructure wise. We want the money on the field. Obviously there's an acquisition to all of that, but the way I look at this thing is you got to be competitive in it every year. I don't want to there's not this 3-year buildup and then hopefully it all works out. That's not the way we want to do it. We want to make sure that we're in it, because when you control what you can control, but you can't control injuries, you can't control turnovers, you can't control coaching changes in the middle of the year. Like, there's a lot of things you can't control, but what we can control is making sure that your process is built on evaluations and you value the kids based off of where they fall in their position group. So to me, that's where there's maybe disagreement from time to time, but just making sure that we spend money better than everybody else will give us more of an advantage than over everyone. Because I think that is where I think we are ahead right now. I think the way that we built this out, we do have an advantage over a lot of schools. So, but again, sticking to that process will usually arise. It keeps emotion out of it, right? So that's the whole point of how we built it. Keep emotion out of it. Stick to the evaluation. Talk to the kid. If they disagree, they disagree, and then we go from there. But for the most part, again, it's whether the kid's happy, the scheme works, and the package works. Pretty straightforward.
Well, it's interesting because I've mentioned this before. Is there a benefit? Because I don't know. I mean, all of this stuff is honest to goodness. For most people, make up your own rules. It's the Wild West, guys. But in your opinion, because I've said it before, having the right of first refusal, if you will, it's not truly a right of first refusal, but first negotiating chance. The first time, like you're starting at a position of strength where there's a lot of fans that are going to go, well, I'm worried about this kid or this kid. And you've probably seen a lot of that yourself online and stuff like that. Being in the position where you have them in the room, you have them on contract, at least through the playoffs. Is that something that you found is a benefit when you do have those guys? Because most other contracts in the NFL don't have to worry about renegotiating after every single season. Unfortunately, in college football, you do. Being in a position of strength, is that something that actually exists, right? Or is it the minute the season ends, the contract is null and void and all bets are off, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think there's power. I guess rephrase it a little bit. I think there's power of the incumbency, right? Like, they're here. So I think you have an advantage there because you're the known quantity. And I think and that's why there's, all that other stuff matters still. We don't talk about it, but like their student athlete experience still matters. If they're having a miserable experience here, they're probably not going to stay. So, what we do in academics and what we do in student athlete development and all of that, like, that stuff still matters. So when you have the incumbency with the kid, like, you're going to have a little bit of an advantage, and it's always easier to stay for most people. Easier to stay, but then obviously you got to deal with whatever comes at you after that. So you usually stick to the evaluation, see where you stand, and then again, sometimes you got to make hard decisions. Hey, again, there becomes a point where hey, does that even make sense where that person falls within their position group, or can we go find better value? I mean, unfortunately, that is where we're at, and I think we're naive to not think that way. But for the most part, again, most of these conversations are pretty straightforward, and the coaches, the position group coaches are always super close to these guys, so they can give you an idea of just, hey, this kid's in a good spot. Hey, this kid's had a tough time here. Just trying to make sure that we are approaching the guys in the right manner and doing it in a great way, and making sure they feel good about it in the end. Because again, you may get disagreement, but for the most part, it's usually pretty straightforward and pretty easy.
Well, I'll get you out of here with this, man, because I think it's important. If the narrative is that an LSU is the New York Yankees, Ole Miss is operated like the Tampa Bay Rays, and the Tampa Bay Rays every single year in the playoffs and competing for World Series championships, certainly division championships, because they're better at what they do than most everybody else. And while they don't have necessarily the same wealth of resources, it's how smart you are with your resources. And I think that and I just want to be fair to it, I think to just it was nice to see the college football playoff rankings committee bump Ole Miss up, because to say it's all because of one cult of personality is, I think, wholly unfair to people like Matt McLaughlin, Walker Jones, and the structure put in place. The players, you're robbing them of agency. So I think people will want to need to know that, like, yes, the man that came here and built the monster was built around the whole analytics and evaluation and scouting department that's better than most everybody else. He was the person it was built around, but he wasn't the one alone building it, and that still remains. So I think that's an important distinction, man, because Ole Miss, y'all made it clear. There's no intention for Ole Miss to go anywhere. You know what I mean? Like that, there's no intention for like it's keep rolling down the road.
Yeah, there's no question. And to me, we've just got great leadership, and we talk a lot about alignment a lot. And that is a narrative that I like to talk about because there's a lot of false narratives out there. But the one that is absolutely true is just how aligned the institution is from top to bottom. The chancellor's been unbelievable. I mean, you
Rock
can't say
star,
enough
dude.
things about
Rock
him. I
star.
mean, I'm telling you, and I've experienced it. Like when you don't have a chancellor that's on the same page with you, it can make it really challenging from an athletics standpoint. But not only one that you feel like supports you, but like advocates for you, right? Like hey, this is important to me. Then that's a lot different than saying, hey, you got, we'll take care of you. Just let us know what you need. No, he's an advocate for athletics, and he wants us to do well. And he empowers Keith to run everything. And that's huge. That's not, I don't say that lightly. And Keith, I've worked for Keith for a long time. He's the best leader I've ever been around. And through the whole process has been super calm, steady hand the whole time, which gives confidence to everybody else, right? And keeps because there's some days where you're like, man, this is a lot. There's a lot going on here that we didn't necessarily think we would ever experience. But in those times, you lean on that alignment and, hey, we're going to be good. And, obviously Walker and all the work that he does. And, I work obviously closely with him, but then Denson, at the foundation, that whole staff, a lot of unsung heroes at the Ole Miss Athletics Foundation, and Taylor Hall in compliance, Bob in academics. I mean, go on, Angela in the business office. I mean, everybody is locked in on winning at an extremely high level, and we built this thing for the long term. The one thing I regret, the last dance, we should have never let that that was never how we operated. It was never the thought process. It's never the mentality. To me, it's just, hey, now it's time to rebuild and reload for next year. And we're going to stick to those principles that we have in place, and not just in football, in every sport. That's what keeps me up at night, is just how do we compete at such a high level in everything? Because that's what we want to do. We want to be great in everything. And I don't know if that's possible, but we're going to die trying. That's the only thing that I can promise. And so from the football stake, I guess since that's the hot topic, we're in a great spot, and we're going to reload with some awesome players. And I'll tell you, man, the biggest regret in all of this was just the lack of spotlight on these guys, because
damn right,
getting around them, especially closer than maybe I normally are, like they're just locked in, and they're so excited for the new staff to come in and Pete's leadership. And I think you're going to see a very, very hungry football team come roll out there on the 19th or 20th, or maybe later, depending on how this thing plays out on Saturday. But we're in a really good spot here at Ole Miss, and you got people in the right place that are committed to the institution and want to see the long-term success there. So we're in a great spot.
Well, as someone for the last 4 days who has been associated by his own fault with a ludicrous line with Project Pat, to hear my guy say, "Oh, we're going to die trying," I'm first thinking, "Dang, Matt McLaughlin's dropping some 50 Cent on Talk of Champions right here now. We're gonna get rich or die trying," is what he's saying. And if you are doing more work on the ground, boots on the ground, than Matt McLaughlin, Walker Jones, Keith Carter, buddy, thank you for coming on this podcast. And I know the work you put in, the hours you've put in. And I know Ole Miss fans can't thank you enough. But more than anything else, bro, keep pounding the rock, because, again, while everyone can say, well, big bad LSU or Florida or whatever you think is a blue blood, Ole Miss for the last however many years, 3 at least, has been better at what it does than most everybody else. If you want to call them the Yankees, well, then Ole Miss is the Tampa Bay Rays, and the Tampa Bay Rays has been taking the Yankees to the woodshed more often than not over the last decade.
Yeah.
So he's Matt McLaughlin, my guy, Senior Associate AD for Strategy and Cap Management. Thank you, friend. Let's do it again.
You got it. Thanks, Ben.